Welcome to the Beat Sessions, your place for all things music. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. Let's talk about Peel Dream Magazine and their record Taurus. They released that on October 1st. This is the fifth studio album for the LA-based band and their follow-up to 2024's Rosemain Reading Room, a terrific record that was recommended to me a few months after its release. And I gotta say, I've really enjoyed diving into this band's catalog over the last year or so, and it's exciting to have an opportunity to talk about this follow-up. Taurus is a little deceptive with its album classification. The band refers to the 8 tracks that come in at 23 minutes as a mini album on their Bandcamp page, but really this thing feels like an extended play. It also jilts the band's tradition of reinventing their sound for each project, but this makes sense considering that the album is composed of tracks that were previously recorded for Rosemain Reading Room, and they find their charm in broadening the scope of frontman Joseph Stevens' creative approach during those sessions. Taurus is interesting too in that it almost kind of feels like a solo project to a degree, with bandmates Ian Gibbs and Olivia Babica Black having a somewhat limited role here. Gibbs is more involved, contributing drums and vibraphone, an instrument that is prominent throughout, but Olivia only takes the reins on vocals for the track Believer, and there are a few moments where she is harmonizing with Joseph, which is quite the opposite of her commanding performance on Rosemain Reading Room. It's probably my biggest criticism of Taurus, is that she isn't more involved in that regard. But the production from Stevens continues to be outstanding. Music that is ready-made for the warmth of your headphones, and with the familiar foundation of droning, hypnotic repetition providing the perfect canvas for these richly textured tracks. There's constant movement between songs that are energetic and fast-paced, and others that nestle into the pensive and broody atmospheres of loungy bossa nova and avant-garde electropop. Both projects find vitality in the cross-pollination of the chamber pop stylings of Sufjan Stevens, particularly with the fluttering woodwind elements, and the classic sounds of Simon and Garfunkel mixed with the contemporary indie folk of Elliott Smith and the Shins, and with the James Mercer side project Broken Bells seemingly providing a muse with the touches of psychedelic experimental space rock at play here. The dynamic is brilliant, music that feels celestial but also very grounded in the comforts of the natural world. It's kind of like finding yourself on a pleasant stroll through a quiet forest on the perfect summer day. There are other great influences at play as well, and I particularly enjoy the way these compositions employ a blend of the ambient electronic stylings of the artists at Wayfarer Records with the loungy minimalistic grooves of Stereolab, Thievery Corporation, and 07. 70s motoric krautrock is a big driving force here for everything mentioned, with lots of vibraphone and touches of Roger McGuinn's jangly guitar highlighting the record. And ultimately, I think we can thank Burt Bacharach for everything that you're hearing here on this album. Lyrically, these songs flourish within the laconic personal storytelling of Rosemain Reading Room, where Joseph threads stories into a vivid tapestry of the natural world, within the context of the city that inspires him, New York City. His writing thrives within a sense of timelessness on both projects, the ideas blending together the way the musical influences do, with Stevens explaining that I wanted it to exist in between so many different things that it's nothing. The two projects highlight the complicated use of I in poetry, where the discernment of the I's subject isn't clearly identified as the writer, but rather as an identifier for the central voice. Tracks like Letters, Seek and Destroy, and Believer achieve this goal. It could be Joseph, but he could be easily writing about someone else, even you, the listener. I will argue that the difference between the two is that the songs on Taurus feel more ambiguous, where Rosemain Reading Room exists within a more obvious personal context, and it feels more appropriate to identify Joseph as the subject on that record. Taurus also features character studies like the track The Band from Northampton and the direct poetic approach on Venus in Nadir and Taurus, which is wielded on its predecessor like the fantastic closer Counting Sheep. Overall, the beauty of these projects is the feeling of like pensive wonder that they create. They feel like the soundtrack for a fresh start or an exciting journey, waking up in a strange place for the first time with the excitement to step out the door and embrace the endless potential before you. These songs inspire, they invigorate the spirit. Taurus is a concise exploration of the human experience, and the aphoristic writing provides the songs with a broader scope that reveal newfound depth in the other compositions they were conceived around, making it an intriguing companion. I don't know if they plan to, but it would be great to see the band release a vinyl package that includes both projects, and perhaps even adjust the track listing for a unique double album experience. Taurus will be available on vinyl October 21st, but in the meantime, you can still stream it. The album opens with the track Venus in Nadir, charges out with a feel of uptempo indie folk and jangle pop with a bit of power pop influence as well. A light, bubbly synth paints the track with a tinge of joyful psychedelia. A lot of the texture drops with the verses to focus on the breezy acoustic guitar and rhythm section, really dialing into the indie folk aspect of things. The synth element functions as a bridge between the two verses, and an arpeggiated guitar riff follows the second verse, working a bit like a solo to usher in a lush, serene coda that fades out. Your second song is your title track, Taurus. Ambient textures, chiming vibraphone, and a resonant synth element provide an obscure, tranquilizing atmosphere as gentle downstrums of acoustic guitar and what sounds like a bit of banjo carry the song. The vocals are delivered in a weightless and hushed fashion with delicacy and warmth. About halfway through, the acoustic guitar briefly comes to life with gorgeous arpeggiated play before reverting back to the strumming pattern and dissipating in droning synths. Your third track is entitled The Band from Northampton. Opens briefly with acoustic rhythm guitar and hazy vocals before the rhythm section joins to give the track a boost. The percussion in the bridge between verses becomes snare heavy with twinkly synth play that brings vibrant life to the track. The song breaks down and builds back with the command of the drums, leading into another segment that's highlighted by a primary staccato synth and a second synth that's far more subdued in the mix. I love the finish, where the song breaks down and builds back in the same fashion as before, but it moves into heavier rock and roll territory with manic, snare-pounding energy and fading out to finish. Your fourth track is the highlight. It's definitely my favorite, Letters. Leads out with a bit of hi-hat and echoey rim shots before down-strummed acoustic guitar and mellow, undulating synth play capture a relaxed, retro mood. The vocal melodies are brilliant in the way that they enhance the psychedelic retro soul influence of this song. It's lifted in the next segment by swimming textures and a commanding vibraphone. The song cycles through these two segments a second time, creating a great contrast between hazy and radiant. It feels like a battle between sunrise and sunset, the force of light pushing against the darkness, and I absolutely love the way that this dynamic plays out on the song. It drifts into a serene vibraphone solo and finishes with a third cycle of the primary sections to finish. Your fifth track is entitled Seek and Destroy. A hi-hat count and rapidly pulsating sci-fi synths usher in a crash of uptempo rhythm, driven by a breakbeat, twinkly synths, and a brilliant vibraphone lick that all carry a somewhat haunting environment. The verses mellow with the rhythm and vocals doing the heavy lifting, but I love how the guitar quietly plays an ancillary role in building the depth of the song's sound. As the track evolves, the intro plays a bigger role, functioning as a bridge, but the quality of it almost makes the leading synth element feel like the track's big hook instead of the line Seek and Destroy. The track finishes with this segment as well, fading out slowly. Your sixth track is entitled Down from the Trees. It's a brief, toned down, and minimal version of Wood Paneling Part 3 from Rosemain Reading Room. with a vacuous droning atmosphere and quiet chiming textures that give it a somewhat sinister edge. And it's focused on the same spoken word passage about the evolution of monkeys. It kind of sounds like an old recording of Alan Watts. I couldn't confirm that, so if any of you have any information, I'd really appreciate that in the comments. Your penultimate track is entitled Believer. Your seventh song builds off the experimental feel of Down from the Trees, with chaotic but restrained drumming that builds behind a prominent vibraphone component and thick, hazy texture. Everything stops while a single note from the vibraphone ushers in a groovy breakbeat-driven track that continues the character of the intro, with the vibraphone nestling into the mix to allow Olivia's vocals to take the spotlight. And I love her here. There's a great bridge where pulsing staccato woodwinds take the spotlight while the vibraphone continues to dance in the backdrop. There's a back and forth between these two segments for most of the track, with a descent into avant-garde chaos around the 3-minute and 15-second mark. The song returns to form and finishes with a big flourish of the instrumentation and a droning fade-out that follows. And your eighth song is entitled Take It. It's a demo, pretty delicate staccato piano and lots of da-da-das lead out your final track. Soft, breezy guitar works in, along with just a touch of vibraphone. And I love the way the minimalism of this one stands in glaring contrast to the rest of the project. It feels like a lullaby that gently brings the listener back to earth. It's a solid way to finish out this project. I love this as a companion piece. Again, I definitely think it's more in the realm of EP territory, and being listed as an album, as a full album, I do feel a tiny bit cheated, but it's great to just hear more music with this sound that they worked with on Rosemain Reading Room. I like the way that it just fleshes things out, and you get to hear more of Joseph's great songwriting working on this project. And it's a great way to hold us over until the next surprise that they deliver with their follow-up record to Taurus. I'm going to give this a 7.4 out of 10. And again, you can pick this up on vinyl, pre-order it October 21st. But in the meantime, stream this thing. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you find this review helpful. Please like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel. If you're feeling generous, drop a super chat. All of that is very much appreciated to help me blow this project up in 2025. And stay tuned throughout the week for more album reviews. We will see you next time on the Beat Sessions.